Hey guys, another edition of Quarantine with Coaches. Today I got a special guest, offensive line coach at Minnesota State Mankato, Collin. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys had a great year, right?
Yeah, we did. We went 14-1, and we lost the national title game. It was awesome until the very end for about an hour and a half, and then it was you were at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and then once that kind of it's settled, you can look back and kind of remember about all the great things that happened this year.
Right. I'm right there with you, man. Same record, same ending, same everything. So I get it. Hey, you've had a career that's seen you coach at the NAIA level, now FCS, now you're at D2. Can you just talk a little bit about your coaching journey?
Yeah, so I started back in 2009. I was a GA at the University of South Dakota underneath Ed Meyercord, who was the head coach there, and really was kind of a volunteer GA. There was only 3 spots, but there was a one extra spot to fill the 10 coaching staff members. So I kind of that first semester I was a volunteer GA. Worked under Wesley Bashaner. I coached the tight ends there for 2 years. And in those 2 years, we beat the Gophers in 2010, and that was a huge win for us. And then after that, I went down to Morningside College in 2011 under Steve Ryan. Started coaching the running backs there. Steve Ryan was an awesome guy to work for. Really is a mentor to me. Was there for 4 years, and after year 2, he turned the offensive line over to me, and that's where I kind of started coaching the offensive line in 2013. And from there at Morningside, I think in the 4 years there, we were 47-7 or something like that. We played for the national title in 12, played in the semifinals in 13 and 14. And then after the 14th season, it was right after we made the decision at Morningside to schedule Wisconsin Whitewater. Wesley Bashaner called me up and asked me if I wanted to come back and coach at South Dakota and be the tight ends tackles coach. So I went back there in 15. And after that year, Joe Glenn retired, and Bob Nielsen came in. I was fortunate enough to stay on staff, and I jumped from offensive line to defensive line, and coached with Brian Monson. Most people know him as Moose. Kind of was under his wing, and Tyler Yelk and those guys for 2016. And then in 17, I got the job at Minnesota State here and coached offensive line here. So I've been here for 3 years now.
And you've been a part of 2 championship runs now, 2 different schools, 2 different levels. What are some things that you've seen that those 2 teams share in common?
I think in those two programs, the big thing was the competitiveness between the guys. We really had taken a lot of pride in recruiting local guys and recruiting guys from that have come from winning programs, that won games in high school and understood how to win and what it takes to win. I think one big thing is that, we were in Morningside, every starter we had was within 3.5 hours of Sioux City, Iowa, and you take a look at a lot of our starters that we had this year at Minnesota State. A lot of those guys are Midwest guys. And I think, more than anything in Midwest, guys use that chip on their shoulder that, hey, just because we're from the Midwest doesn't mean we're slow and unathletic and all that, so they use that as kind of a fueling factor a little bit. But I think a lot of pride in where they come from, get those guys that got that blue collar work ethic, bring a hard hat and a lunch pail to work every day, kind of deal. I think that was a big thing. And, for us here at Minnesota State, competitiveness is one of our core foundations. We're going to compete in everything that we do. And Coach Hoffman really strives on that, really makes us, pushes us to keep that up, in the program.
Yeah. You've coached a couple different positions now, a couple different schools. What do you think the most important qualities a coach can have?
I really think that you got to be honest with your players, and your players got to genuinely understand that you care about them. I think and it's tough, jumping from maybe one school to another school and coming in and, but getting those guys to understand that you're there for them, and that you're there to help them, and understand that you're there to help them and also help the team. I think once they understand that you're being truthful with them, and because I think a lot of times kids can see through the BS. And I think especially coaching the offensive line, your guys got to know you care about them, but at the same time, they want to know that you'll go to fight for them. And I think most of the players will agree to that, but especially the offensive line position, that I understand I'll go to bat for them and I'll fight for them just as much as I'll fight against them, and to push them. And then I think a big thing for me is, and I saw this today, I can't remember who I saw it from, but it's okay to tell your players that you love them. I mean, you're around them so much. I mean, I'm around them as much as I am my three boys, as I am this offensive line and everything that we do. It's okay. Hey, man, I love you. And, sometimes you get that big, ego facade that you can't be emotional, or you can't tell a guy you love him, but when it gets thick and thin, and when it's 4th and 1 and you got to get the first down, that guy next to you, man, you better hope that, hey, man, there's a lot ingrained between the two of us. We got to get this, and it's just more than just, we lift weights together, kind of deal. There's more of a bond than that.
What are some of the things you've learned about career building along the way?
The thing that I've learned is that, like I said, I've had some really good mentors that have helped me, and that when I got done playing, I thought hey, man, I could be a GA, I could call plays, I can do whatever, you don't know anything, right? I've learned that you invented nothing. It's been done before. You're basically, just trying to put your own little spin on it. But sharing ideas with coaches, resourcing. I think a networking and talking with guys, because unfortunately, it's not what you know most of the time in this business. It's who you know, and being able to connect with guys and be yourself. I've learned that, hey, it's okay if some people don't like you. As long as you're yourself, at least they'll respect you. But once you try to be someone you're not, you get into that, now you got to play an alter ego or something else, and then you're just not true to yourself. And, and again, coaches and players can see through the BS quite a bit. So trying to be myself and, trying to, again, try to sit down and learn something from everybody. And whether it's, whether it's the O-line coach, whether it's the receivers coach, maybe it's a defensive backs coach, somewhere in there, everyone's coaching guys and trying to get guys to play. Somewhere you're going to pick something up. I've learned to write a lot of stuff down, and it doesn't matter. Some of the best coaches I know are at a Division III school or an NAI. Just because you're at wherever doesn't mean that you're if you're at Alabama, it doesn't mean you're the best coach. Now, I think a lot of people would argue that Nick Saban might be the best coach, but I would, there's guys that would do just as well at Minnesota State, or people from Minnesota State would do just as well at Alabama or wherever, because, they're great coaches.
Hey, before I let you go, we'll do a little rapid fire. You go with that?
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, what's been your go-to quarantine meal? Asking everybody this.
Chicken legs on the grill. Got it. Bought a new thing. I'm kind of an infomercial guy. Bought a new chicken leg cooker, and it's probably done that 2 or 3 times on the grill since we
nice. We might have to get you back just to demo that.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the best book you've read?
I'm reading a book right now. It called "It Takes What It Takes," and I've always butchered this guy's last name, but I think it's Trevor. Is it Moad?
Yeah, Moad. I don't know how you say it.
And I'm in the middle of that right now, and I think it's a really good book. It talks about a neutral mentality and things like that. And we try to. I think it's very similar to the game of football and how you go through a game. I think being able he coaches. He's Russell Wilson's mental training coach. So I'm about halfway through it right now. I've gotten a little stuck here in the last couple of weeks with it, but trying to get back on it.
Yeah, that's a great book. I just finished it, and we're doing a book club meeting with our players right now with it. I think it should be required reading for every coach. It's really good. This is a new one now. If you could be quarantined anywhere besides the great city of Mankato, where would you be quarantined at?
I'd probably say somewhere back in the home state in South Dakota, kind of up maybe in the northeastern part where there's a bunch of lakes. I know it's a little cold still up there right now, but maybe to get out and just having 3 kids. I got a buddy that lives kind of in Castlewood, and he's got a good little setup, and he's got a farm, and he's got a boat, and he's able to go fishing and get out and do some stuff. Obviously, you got to have some internet access somewhere, and sometimes you run into those issues in the middle of nowhere, South Dakota. But,
all right, this is right now. This is a follow-up question. Okay, what's the best thing to do in South Dakota then?
Oh, kind of depends on the year, but I'd have to say fishing. It's got to be the one. But obviously, you get kind of that October timeline, and the pheasant hunting is pretty good there.
Gotcha. Hey, if your offense could emulate any offense in the history of football, college or pro, who would they emulate?
That Alabama team that beat Notre Dame in the national title game. I think that was that 2012 season, but they played it in 13. That was a pretty dynamic team, and I really liked. They did a lot of 12 personnel, but they were able to move. They did a lot of stuff out of it. They had a really good offensive line. I can't remember what guy was. I think it was probably Derrick Henry at tailback then. And those kind of, maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was Trent Richardson or
Mark.
Ingram.
Ingram. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, they just to pound the football team, and then be able to take some shots. I'd say if I were to have one off the top of my head, definitely probably those guys.
All right, final question. What TV show are you binging right now?
I just started last night. I started Ozark. It was a recommendation from our defense coordinator, Coach Gogowski. He goes, you won't be disappointed. But the other one that I just got done watching was Queen of the South. That Coach Prevost at South Dakota kind of got me on that a little bit before quarantine. But those have been 2 that I'm really excited to get into Ozark.
Ozark is someone told me about it actually on this little video series. I think it was Coach Landry had recommended it. I sat down that night and went to town, and man, I finished it maybe a week, and it was phenomenal. One of my favorite shows on TV now.
I'm worried about the lack of sleep I might get here in the next.
Your sleep schedule is going to hell, man.
Yeah.
All right, Coach. Appreciate you coming on Quarantine with Coaches. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you having me.